Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. Michael Zuber, one rental at a time. And as I mentioned in the daily financial news, I had a surprise guest at 10 a.m. and it is the one and only Chad. What is it? Coach Carson, Chad Carson, author, Bigger Pockets, all that stuff.
Yeah, well, either way, Chad or Coach is good. And thanks for having me, Michael. It's great to be here.
Yeah, man. Thank you for replying back. I saw your Instagram page, what you're doing there. I actually have your book. It's one of the books behind me on the shelf back there. So where do you think we should start? Do you want to tell everybody about who is Chad, the real estate investor, how it all started? Talk about the book first. Where you want to go first?
Yeah, that'd be fine. I mean, just a little bit of background about me. I've been investing for 18 years, and real estate's been both my career and my wealth building retirement vehicle. Very similar to what you teach and do a great job with, which is teaching how to build wealth and retire off of that.
Yep.
That was my plan as well. And I got started out of college flipping houses and finding deals for other people, and then eventually realized that just like any other job, that's a job, and I want some more passive income, or I want to have like, recurring income, things coming in. So the rental property, I actually read a book. I'm not sure if you read this one as well, by John Shaw, Building Wealth One House at a Time.
Oh yeah.
And he was just a big influence on me early on, both for the idea of using real estate, simple, smaller properties as a means to build wealth, but also just balancing lifestyle and keeping things as simple as possible and not having to build a 1,000-unit empire in order to take over the world, but just having enough so that you can travel. And my wife and I have 2 kids. We've traveled. We lived abroad for 17 months.
Wow.
In Ecuador. That's actually where I wrote my book. Retire Early with Real Estate was while I was in Ecuador and enjoying that. So that's a little bit about me. I've the real estate side and enjoyed the lifestyle and giving back and contributing to my community. And that's a lot of what I'm involved in.
And that's where we're probably going to spend most of our time, because we both have a passion for that. But I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about, because again, we sort of track the same dirt, right? I started in 02, you started in 03, which means we both experienced a crazy run up that we didn't know was happening, right? We were in it. We're like, this is fun. I mean, I remember thinking, wow, everything goes up all the time. Then, I went to a meetup from a gentleman named Bruce Norris. I've been to a John Staub event as well. I paid to go see him as well 5 or 6 years ago. It was very well done. But Bruce Norris said basically California crash is coming. Mm-hmm. Housing affordability was a topic I'd never heard of. He introduced it. So I got out. I did a 1031 exchange out of all my houses into apartments. But I'm curious. You're on the East Coast, right?
Yeah, I'm in the Southeast, so South Carolina, and particularly in a college town in Clemson, South Carolina.
So what happened 06, 07, 08? Maybe it was flat. I mean, I have no idea what happened in your neck of the woods. What did happen kind of pre-run up? Was there a top? Did it crash? What was going on?
Yeah, so we all had ups and downs. I think it was interesting though. South Carolina's in a lot of secondary markets there's an echo, I think, and echoes in different ways. But we would read the news about California and say, "Oh, that's interesting," and then a year later, that same tsunami.
It's here now.
Yeah. And the other thing is like California and New York, some of the markets that have just tons and tons of capital that comes into them become much more unaffordable. They really have the higher run-ups and sometimes the higher run-downs.
Yeah.
Whereas I think we did have a softening. We did have decreases. Particularly if you were in the worst markets or condos. You had some really big dips. But most of my stuff it dipped. Even the rent we had to decrease 5-10% during 2007, 8, 9. But even some of the mistakes we made, my business partner and I were by our own making. We just overextended ourselves a little bit. We bought too much. But the positive was we saved a lot of cash. We lived frugally. And so we were able to eat on some reserves for a year or two while we kind of went through our mistakes. And then on the other side of that, there's a lot of opportunities, obviously.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 2010 was a wonderful year. Yeah. Talking about peaks and valleys. Yeah. California is, the classic high peaks, high valleys. My market went down 75% peak to trough, right? Fresno, California, which means we didn't get out at the top, right? I sold a house at 264 that I talk about all the time. It actually runs all the way to 300. Wow. So I missed 10 or 12% of that, but then that same house crashes to 75 grand. So I didn't experience any of that because I was sitting in an apartment building instead. So that was pretty cool. Now, what were you doing in that time? Were you still flipping, or had you started buy and hold, or what were you and your business partner doing kind of at the peak of the market.
Yes. So it shows you how brilliant I was, and we are. In 2007, we had 33 closings in 2007. So that's
Okay.
right as the storm clouds are coming.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here we go. Come on, let's just keep on buying.
Oh, what's out there, honey?
Yeah,
It looks
yeah.
dark.
Yeah. I mean, I love Bruce Norris. I wish I would have listened to more of Bruce Norris in 2007.
Yeah.
But yeah, what we did was we were flipping a lot of houses. So we were in the foreclosure market, pre-foreclosure, short sales. We got really good at that. So we would buy deals really low, resell them. But then we also started negotiating and buying a lot of rental properties that year. So out of those 33 closings, I would say half of them were flips and wholesales.
Okay.
The other half were buy and hold. Some of those were multi-unit properties. And we had, by the end of that year, we had about 60 rental units.
Okay.
And I'd say about, 10 of those we probably should have never bought. The rest of them were pretty good.
Yeah.
And so, and the other thing we did a lot of was creative financing. So we used seller financing, private money, self-directed retirement accounts. I didn't have a full-time job, so going out to the bank and getting like the traditional mortgages just wasn't my game. So we did a lot of that, and that was kind of a blessing in disguise because we essentially had partners. These individuals, they didn't want to go in the stock market at that time. They actually loaned us more money during the downturn, so we were able to have those relationships with money, and that was a big aha moment that we could actually take advantage of the kind of counter-cyclical nature of the market. Using the money that when banks were pulling money back and taking it away from people, we were still investing and buying stuff later on.
Yeah, that was a big game changer for me. And again, a lot of my investing career was just taking one step forward, right? I never professed to know what was coming. I just knew I couldn't buy that ninth house. Right. Bruce Norris says, crash. I validated my market. I'm like, I think he's smarter than me.
Yeah.
Sell, buy apartments. We go from 8 to 80. It's all good. But then, yeah, you're right. We start buying on the way down. Cause again, it goes from 300 to 75, but that was 3.5, 4 years in the making. People pretend like it's the stock market. These people calling for huge crashes. 300 to 75 is ugly, but it's not a minute. It's not a week. It's not a month. It's not even a year. It was 4 years in the making. Did you kind of see the same thing?
Yeah, for sure. It was just a big trough, and it was on the way down. And then we also, I'm just trying to think, 2008 and 9, we were experimenting with things. And I think I love what you said. I'm not brilliant enough to figure things out and time things well, but you push against the market. Like I was always making offers. I was always testing things. I was always renting. And if you get good at looking at your metrics and understanding, like, okay, this house is not renting for $1,000 anymore. I'm getting 0 applications.
Yeah.
Something's wrong.
Something's wrong. Yeah.
Something's going on. I need to lower my rent some. And so you lower your rent.
Yeah.
That's one example, but also with making offers, to me, the gravity, the physics of real estate investing is income. And I know different markets have different, levels at which the price to income ratios work, but we use that as a guide. And for me, even today, I think about it as, if you can withstand the storm by being able to button up the hatches and live off your income or use your income to pay the debt, and you have a good margin between that. You can hold out. You can go through the storm. And so that's the way we were thinking about it then. The mistakes we made were having some properties where we had to feed too much cash flow, or we had, we underestimated repairs by 10 or 20 grand. And so that's what ate into our reserves. So we learned from those mistakes, but we got better and better on each purchase. And then we were able to withstand, and still today have, some of the properties we bought then, and we've paid them down and they're doing much better.
Yeah, I call them alligators, right? Anytime I got to feed a property, especially like I did a cash out refi in one of my properties. Total, I didn't do the math. I mean, I'm a numbers guy. I'm like, I didn't do the math.
Yeah.
My payment after the refi was $1,200 or $1,214, I think it was, and my rent was $1,095. Even if there was no expenses, I was losing. How dumb was I? But yeah, so I did that once. I call it alligators. Don't do that. Very bad.
We've all been there. I mean, it's, I think if anybody tells you they've been perfect on all their deals, please run.
You've done 0 deals, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, we all we have our moments. But that's again, one rental at a time. I love that philosophy, because if you do one rental at a time, you make a mistake. That's a lot different than doing 100 rentals at a time. Then you made a mistake on 100 in a row, and you're in trouble.
Oh yeah. You could sort of limp through with one. Yeah, if you had 100. Yeah, that's an uncomfortable conversation. Yeah. So the other thing I know, kind of in your story is, I don't know when it came, but I'm gonna say this, and if I'm wrong, correct me. But it feels like to me, kind of researching you went through this transition, right? Where at one point you were chasing money, and then at some point you realized, what, when kind of John Staub, right? It's money. There's enough. Let's kind of transition priorities. Maybe is the right answer. Is that a fair thing to say?
Yeah, it was. And it's right about this. It's the same story as the economic cycle, 2007. And I'll give credit to my business partner. He was probably, again, the first one to like realize it. It was, we bought so many properties and I'm thinking, well, maybe we need to grow ourselves ways out,
Yeah, grow out of it.
Yeah. He's like, no, like, let's slow this thing down. And we actually did this exercise, and I probably brought the exercise up, but it was more of like what would you do with your time in the middle of the day? You know, if you had unlimited money. It's like one of those great just journaling exercises. And I wrote down my things. He wrote down his things. I got married that year. My wife wrote down, and like 3/4 of the things that I wrote down required little or no money. Like it was just like, I want to go play basketball in the middle of the day. I want to go hiking in the woods. My wife and I love to travel. She teaches Spanish. We wanted to go travel, which is yes, it costs money, but when you do slow travel where you go for 3 to 6 months, you're living in long-term hotels and you're living in rental apartments, and it just reduces your daily expenses dramatically. And so like money, yes, is one currency, but the other currencies of having free time and flexibility. When I actually looked at the things I really wanted in life, it did not require this huge empire of buying hundreds or thousands of units. It required enough. And that was a big aha moment. It was kind of a switch to where this business is here to serve you and it's here to allow you to do more things in life. It's not this monster, this Frankenstein that kind of takes over so many people's lives and becomes the all-encompassing main thing.
I'm glad we're going here because I see that a lot, right? Social media, entrepreneurs, all of this. Too many people are letting that thing become the all-consuming thing. It ultimately becomes their ego and their self-worth and all of these things, right? Whatever the flex is, the unit count, the this, the that. When if you really got them in a room and they got quiet, they're trying to do it for something, whether it's travel or family time or something. And just go figure out what enough is, right? I use it. I have an analogy, Chad, just see if this makes sense to you. I busted my ass during my day job. I was climbing a mountain, which ultimately became financial freedom. The mountain is very tall. I found my Vista. I got my monthly nut covered. I got a little bit more and I'm done, right? I'm on the Vista. I'm looking out. Could I go higher? Sure. Do I have any interest currently? No chance. Could it change? Sure. I mean, priorities change, but right now I'm cool on my Vista. And what I'm doing is turning around and trying to help people get up the path that I did. Because my path was dirty and full of glass and just lots of stuff to trip you up. So that's kind of the analogy I play with. Does that work?
I love it. Yeah, I think I would, if I can borrow that analogy, I will, because I think that's exactly where I am as well. And I always compared it to, I could go out there and buy, another 1,000 or 10,000 units because I got good at buying property. I'm sure you did too. I could raise capital and syndicate. Those are cool. Like there's nothing wrong with those tools, but I would be making, maybe 100 rich people even richer.
Right.
Whereas if you and I are sitting here chatting, we are talking to people who are going to change their lives by buying 5 or 10 rental properties, and and that's amazing to me. Let's get 1,000 or 10,000 of those people instead of 100 rich people.
Yeah. That's why I don't syndicate. I don't do any of those things, right? This, right? There was a time, I think it was 2010, 11, where banks only would let you take 4 loans. Remember that time?
Yeah, exactly.
So I actually talk about, let's just get to 4. It doesn't play now because now banks go to 10, but I've always stuck with 4. Why? Because there's a couple of things. And sorry, my dog, I have 2 little puppies. So
no worries.
They're making noise. So I picked up the one that was closest. But anyways, I talk about 4 because I go to meetups and, you talk about having hundreds of units and they applaud you and they clap for you. But I go out in the hallway after, and I can't tell you, Chad, how many times people have said, good for them, but we can't do it. I'm like, I just wasted an hour of my time because I don't need the applause, right? That's not my cup. I'm trying to get half the room to take positive action. So that's why I talk about get to 4, and 4 will change your life. If you get to 4, then you go to 10, but you just get to 4. That's all it is. That many.
Yeah. There's always more if you want to do it, right? Yeah. But get to that. And the thing I'm trying to validate, and I think you're doing the same thing, is that it's once you get to this number 4, 10, whatever that number is, like that can cover 90% of people's just basics, your whatever you need. And beyond then, it's up to you. Like it's up to your, but like life changes when you have those basics covered. Like for me, it was travel, and my wife and I left for 17 months with our kids and lived abroad.
That's
and like awesome. I personally needed that because I am the type A, like I was go. I got in the habit, and I think a lot of us do, of just going and climbing. And I really needed to detach from that like cycle of grow. And for me, it's going to Latin America. Like I love like so many countries in Latin America who kind of value family time and dancing and enjoying life a lot, and music. And so those kind of things were a little bit infused into me to say, you know what, there's some balance here of enjoyment of life, of growing, but then also, giving back and kind of bring this thing back full circle. So I think it all kind of fits together.
So I have a crazy question just because I see it over your right shoulder. Did you actually play for the Crimson Tigers, or is it just a favorite?
Yeah, I was there, and some of the Clemson fans might get upset about the Crimson. It's like the Crimson Tide is Alabama.
Oh, I'm sorry.
They're like,
my bad.
It's not a big deal, but I played middle linebacker.
Clemson Tigers. I'm sorry.
Clemson Tigers. It's all good. Like actually, Alabama fans might be upset that we even mentioned Clemson in the same category as them. But although we are the only team that's beat them in the last, or other than whoever beat them a couple weeks ago. But
anyway, I messed it up. So you played middle linebacker.
Yeah, I was a middle linebacker there, and that
you got to hit people.
I was just running around tackling people. Yeah.
Very cool.
Now I'm a big softie. I have 2 little daughters. Like, did you actually hit people and tackle people?
You're a girl dad.
but they had the football. I had to like
you
had
to.
From them.
It wasn't 2-hand touch. I'm sorry. My mind goes lots of different directions. So I had to ask. So that's very cool. So I want to talk about, you go from living in the US to living abroad for 17 months. I just never know where these conversations are going. That's why it's so much fun.
Yeah.
So I did a lot of traveling for work. I never spent months, but I've spent weeks other places. And for me, it kind of takes, I don't know, it's probably different when you live there months, but at some point you probably switched from kind of having a mindset of US based to kind of South America based. Was that weeks, months? What was that like?
Yeah, I mean, it took months. Our daughters, when you have kids, enrolling them in school, like we enroll them in local schools, and so my wife is much more fluent in Spanish than I am. I'm pretty good. I can get by. I'm proficient. But she went around for 3 or 4 weeks just looking for a school, and we enrolled them in local private schools, and that was important to us just because.
And how old were they? Sorry, at the time?
They were 3 and 5 at the time.
All right, so wow.
Yeah, they're now 8 and 10. So the
5-year-old probably remembers it. Probably.
Yeah. They both remember it.
Oh,
Actually, they got really good. They've lost some of their Spanish since then, but at the time, I think it took us a few months, everybody, just to get adjusted and get settled in. And the kids didn't know any Spanish. They had like 7 or 10 words of Spanish. So we were just like, here's the deep end of the pool. We're gonna put you in
jump.
there. And I guess that's just our family style. We just like parachute in and figure it out when we get there. And the girls are like, I guess my parents are crazy. I just gotta like figure this thing out. And,
that is awesome.
But I think for us, some people like travel, some people don't. Some people go for a few weeks. But to us, the metaphor of travel, of you get outside your comfort zone,
get immersed.
You get immersed. You learn that, hey, even these things we take for granted today, these little simple things are a little different in another place. So there's some differences. But then on the other side of that, there's this common humanity that is amazing. When you start learning that, people also have families there, and people have common needs and common wants, and so there's those are some beautiful things about, particularly, we went to Ecuador, really enjoyed meeting people there. And but then also just looking back from a business standpoint, I didn't buy any real estate there, but it was kind of interesting just to look at some of the financial system differences. And we could talk about that too, but it's interesting to think about currencies and things that are going on right now. Just when you can leave another country, there's some of the water we're swimming in financially in the United States is some unique water.
Yes.
And it's not, sometimes I don't think we appreciate the financial system, the credit system, the things we have that are a little different than other.
Yeah. Places. I don't know Ecuador, but I have a buddy who invests some money in Colombia. Right. We've traveled to Medellin, Colombia.
Yep.
And he bought, I think he has 2 condos there, maybe 3 now, but you got to pay cash. There is no mortgage, right? It's
it might be like a 5-year mortgage, and you put 50% down.
And that's for locals, right? You got to be a local, and if you're an expat or coming from abroad, it's cash on the barrelhead, and you're done, right? So there's a lot of that there. You have a saying behind you. I thought we should talk about, right? Do what matters.
Yeah.
What does that mean to you?
Yeah, it means it's what I mentioned earlier, that real estate is the tool. Money is the tool, life is the goal. Like what do you want to do with your life? And so for me, like I started interviewing people. I have a newsletter and a blog, and I've always asked people, I said, what are you investing for? Like what's your why? And I get all sorts of answers. You get people want to go part-time at their job. They want to switch careers. They want to travel with their family. Maybe they want to take care of their elderly parents who need help. Maybe they want to start a local cause. Maybe they want to get online and teach and do these kind of things. It's just, but all of these answers are what matters to them. It's the answer to that question. If you said, if money were no object,
right,
what would you do with your time? How would you invest that most precious resource? And that to me is like the metaphor, do what matters means let's prioritize that. Let's build wealth so that you can spend more time doing that. And let's not wait until you're, 80 years old to do that. Let's do that when you're 40, 50, 30, 60, whatever the case for you might be, because time is precious. Let's do it. Like we can go, we can get on these rat wheels sometimes. Sometimes it's, for all of us are a little bit different. Sometimes we're spending a lot of money on things that really aren't making us happy. So maybe we dial that back a little bit. Maybe it's just we haven't invested our money as wisely. Let's find some good, solid, those 4 properties that we talked about. But all of the how that I try to teach kind of comes back to that why. So that's why I try to remind people that I'm trying to do that. Let's try to do that together. And that might be a good compass for us.
Yeah. So let's talk about, because we're both trying to help those new folks, single family homes, fourplexes, whatever is residential. You don't have to do 1,000-unit apartments and syndicate to get ahead. When you look at the market today and you have new folks reach out, what are you trying to, what kind of messages are you giving your students and followers?
I think the number one strategy, if you just look like kind of the meta strategy investment wise, hasn't changed in some respects. It's if you look at when you're buying one rental property, if you can lock in a 3% interest rate for 30 years, and if you can buy a property that makes a 6% yield if it was unleveraged, if you have a spread between 3% and 6%, and you can afford to hold that property for a long period of time, and it's in a good location, like that's a winning recipe. Like if you give it enough time, that spread between 3% and 6% or 4% and 7%, like that is what makes us super wealthy in real estate. And you can add all the tax benefits, you can add the appreciation, appreciation helps. I'm not going to lie about that. That's a boost to your returns. But if you can just buy properties that do that and keep that metric in mind, then you're going to do pretty well.
Time in the market is better than timing the market.
Exactly. Yeah. I think people should be buying. I don't think you'll end up buying as much right now as you will whenever in the future, if things change. But I think it would be a mistake to get out of the market and stop looking right now. You need to be looking. You need to be buying and finding stuff.
Yeah, one of the things that I did, because again, I'm a study of economic cycles, is I went back and studied the last 50 years. So 1970 to 2020. And it's actually really interesting. We've had 40 years of declining rates. And there was actually a decade, which most people won't realize, but from 1970 to 79, interest rates went up 320 basis points or 33%, right? They were 8 something, and then they were 11 something at the end of the decade.
Right.
That hasn't happened for 40 years. I think it's going to happen this decade. So rates are low at the beginning. They will be higher at the end. How high? Don't know. Higher.
Yeah.
So when you go back to 1970 and then you look at 79, the winners were anybody who bought real estate in 70 or 71, because rents doubled, property values doubled, because incomes nearly doubled.
Right.
I think we're in a wage cycle and inflation is coming. And again, what I talk about is no alligator. So make sure it cash flows day one, eat with leverage, and then just hold on, because you're going to have fixed payments in an inflationary environment, and you can't beat inflation, but you can use it. And this is the decade I think you get to use inflation.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I think that sounds very plausible to me, and I think we have to play like all the different scenarios. But to me, the most likely scenario is some kind of inflation, and real estate is just a beautiful real estate with long-term leverage is the
fixed rate,
fixed rate. I mean, that's what I go back to. So people say, what's the recipe today? Especially when you're in a growing phase. Now, I will say where I am, I'll be happy to talk about what I'm doing right now. So like people who are growing and if you look at your portfolio and you say, I have $500,000 of net worth and I need to get to $1 million or $1.5 million, that's your recipe. Like that's what you want to do. If you're on the other side of that though, and I find myself on the other side of that, where I wouldn't mind growing some more, but to me, it's more risk. I'm more risk averse because I don't want anything I've done to go away,
right?
Because I have enough, and so for me, I'm actually paying debt off. Like my business partner and I are saying, I don't care if it's 4%, I don't care if it's 6%. we're selling a few properties. We're using income that we make from this excess money. He's got another business. I've got another business. So we're using excess money to pay
down debt. Yeah.
To pay debt because it's just not interesting for us to get an extra property or two or an extra little bit of wealth when it's there already.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. That's actually one thing I'm doing a little bit different. Well, actually I did, and then doing different. So, but you're very right. When you get to the other side of enough, I call it that Vista on the mountains. We did the same thing, right? When we were growing, we both had W-2s. We were, I don't know, 70-ish LTV on everything. You get really close to the end, you go, I remember 2008.
Yeah.
I'm going to pay some of these off. I'm going to lever these ones up, have this pile that's free and clear. Totally get it. Yeah. What I did do just recently, just in full disclosure, my channel will know this, is I took a couple of apartments in a commercial building that I owned free and clear. And I went ahead and got 4 and 5% money, 30-year fixed. I will only do 30-year. I do not want any debt with a 5-year adjustable or 7-year. No. I want fixed rate. Even I did 4.99. I'll take it. 30-year fixed. I'm good. So we did raise a little bit of capital because I actually think I'm going to repeat something I did in 2010, 11 is I'll be able to buy some apartments in years from now when they blow up, because the LTV will, or the interest rate will go up, which means the cap rate will go up, which means the refi is broken, and I'll be standing there with cash with 30-year money on it. So that's one thing I see out there.
Yeah, I think everybody makes their own choices.
Sure.
In 2016, we made a very similar choice where we're like, okay, we got a big chunk of cash. Could we pay this thing off, or could we refinance it, just pull that cash out? And we did exactly what you're doing. And so I just think it's I guess I'm just pointing that out because
it's true. It's awesome.
Everybody's got to think about where they are in the cycle, and many of us are still growing, and there's going to be opportunities in the next 5 years. So you just have to decide like what's your game and what's your strategy, and those are two different approaches, kind of for different time periods.
Well, very cool. Let's talk about your book. Somebody hasn't read your book yet. What are they going to find in it? They can get it on Amazon. I think it was published by Bigger Pockets, if I'm not mistaken.
It was, yeah. So it was, to me, when I first wrote this book, it's called It's the Retire Early with Real Estate, and it's sort of the standing between the financial independence, retire early movement, the FIRE movement, Mr. Money Mustache, Choose FI,
I know those guys.
The Bigger Pockets world. So the thing I loved about Bigger Pockets is just this idea that you can have a blueprint to build wealth, use real estate to do it, and use your mountain metaphor. I used the mountain metaphor as well.
Oh, nice.
The idea of the book was here are several different paths up the mountain. You want to get to financial independence where your income pays for your expenses. Here are different ways to do it. And so I talked about strategies like using the BRRRR strategy, which is pretty popular these days.
Yeah, but David Green's book.
Yeah. So talked about that. How do you apply that? But also talked about house hacking and some of the strategies to get started. How do you get that first deal? So that's kind of the bottom of the mountain. But then as you get up the mountain and you start trying to grow that portfolio, I talked about strategies like doing 1031 exchanges. Talked about strategies like using a debt snowball, which I talked about getting out of debt. So then you get to the top of the mountain, and something that's not always talked about a lot is like, how do you have backup plans to this original strategy you have? So maybe having second businesses or side hustles or savings accounts or retirement accounts. And so it's a comprehensive look.
That's awesome.
You want to retire early. Here's a blueprint to do it. And then I have 25 stories that I interviewed other people who are either on some time scale of retiring early with real estate. What did their portfolio look like? How many properties do they have? How much income do they make? And so it's a how-to guide to that financial independence journey.
Very cool. And if somebody watching this from my channel wants to reach out, wants to follow you more, where do you send? Do you send them to Instagram, website? Where do you want them to go?
Yeah, you go to coachcarson.com. I, like you, I'm pretty active online. I have a podcast every Monday. So the Real Estate Financial Independence Podcast. You're welcome to join me there. And then everything I do, I put on this video or audio is on YouTube too. So I have a YouTube channel to search Coach Carson. And if you find me there, I respond to comments a lot. And I'm also on Instagram. So feel free to connect with me on any.
That's how I found you. Instagram.
Yeah, you as well. You're doing great stuff. I like all your content and
I appreciate
your braiding. So well done.
Coach Carson, guys, go ahead and give him a follow. Check out his book. It is on Amazon. It is one of the books behind my sign there. I read it. I want to say it must have come out 18 because I think I read it in 2019.
Yeah, great. Yeah. I've got your book as well. So thank you.
Very cool.
Send it my way, and I'll do a review of it and share.
Dude, I appreciate it.
So
all right. You a lot. Thank you very much, Chad. Enjoy yourself again. Go check him out. Coach Carson, Instagram, website, YouTube channel. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, Michael. Nice talking to you.
Thanks.